Okay, we're going to continue with the reset objects subroutine that we created down here at the bottom. So we left off, we had these two lines. We also need to adjust the direction of the ball. So we'll set it so it's going back up towards the top. As Y decreases, the ball objects go towards the top of the screen, so we need to set it to -1. Ball X direction, we're going to reset it to 1. We always want the ball to start off in the same direction when the player releases it. Otherwise, they can't predict what's going to happen. And we need to go ahead and subtract 1 from lives. This is not enough to show that the lives are going to decrease to the player. We need to set the label as well. So I'm going to grab the lives label and the text property and set it to the correct value. So we still want it to say lives and then the correct value. So this is the actual number that's put onto the end of the string. All right, so this is going to run if lives is greater than 1. Okay, I went back and tested some of my values a little bit, so I'm going to change these back. So my lives, I'm going to change back to 3. And when the form is loaded, I want to change that to 3. And then back down here, I'm actually going to take out this if statement. Make sure you take out the end if as well, because this is going to happen no matter if they have lives or not. So we want that code to always run. After, I figured this will be better for our check. That way we don't have to put so much in our if statement. So now we're going to check if lives is less than or equal to 0. So meaning they have no more lives left. If that's the case, then we're going to do some stuff down here. So I'm going to show you guys how to put in some audio. I think that's going to spark your interest a little bit. Okay, so I just created some space here for if there's no more lives left, we're going to basically do some type of game over scenario. And then else, meaning they have more lives, we're just going to make a sound and let them keep playing. I just put in some comments to show what we're going to put in here in code. To make a comment, you just put a apostrophe before the line that you want to type. Before we can put the audio in our code, we need to put it in our resource folder right here. If you don't have the resources, just double click on my project right up here. It'll open this up. Click on resources. And right now I have it listed to show all of the images. Okay, we need some audio here. If you click there, there's not going to be any audio yet. So to add a resource, we need to first download it to the computer. Okay, so you can use your own audio files if you want. It's probably going to be pretty hard to find and take a while. So I went ahead and put some on Google Classroom. So if you open up Google Classroom, at the top of the Classroom page, you'll see audio files. It's an announcement. You'll see these 3 files. So I'm not sure if you're going to be able to right click and save it that way. So if you click on the audio file, it'll go ahead and open it up. You can play it if you want to. Okay, so that's going to be the game over sound effect. All right, to download it, just click this button right at the top here, click download. It's probably going to put it right into your downloads folder. You can either leave it there and import it from there, or I recommend copying it over into your project folder. Okay, so these are my 3 files. So if I go into my downloads, here's that new one that I just did. Right click, cut, navigate to your project folder, right click, paste. Okay, I've already put them in there, so I'm not going to do that. Go ahead and do that with all 3 of those files. All right, after they're in your project folder, now we got to put it into the project. So you click on this button right up here, add existing file. Again, navigate to your project folder, and there they are. I'm going to hold down Control, click all of them. You can open them all at the same time or put them into the project. Click that, boom, there they are. All right, to actually grab it in code, so right below here, I'm going to leave that comment in there just so I know that reminder that this is the game over section. And I'm going to go ahead and play the audio. So we need to grab my computer dot audio. So we're grabbing the audio component of the computer, and we're going to tell the audio component to play, and then in parentheses we're going to tell it what to play. Well, we now need to grab this audio file. So to grab that, it's in my resources. So my.resources.gameover. Okay, and we have to use the same name right here as is listed here for each of these audio files. So if you change these, make sure you use them here in code. So right now it's giving me an error because what it needs next is a play mode. We're always going to use the same play mode here. For this game, we're going to use play mode.background. All right, right now it shows an error. If I click off of that, it's just going to go away. All right, so we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it right down here where we lose a life. And I'm just going to change it right here. Instead of game over, I'm going to put dot lost a life. It even shows it here in the suggestions. Hit tab and it'll pop it in for you. All right, we are going to add some more stuff to the game over. However, we'll have to wait on that. I want to start on the splash screen first, or the main menu. All right, I'm going to go ahead and test that out first, make sure it's working. There you go, you get that audio. And one other thing I want to do is go ahead and add an audio clip to when the ball hits one of these blocks. One thing I did forget to put in last time is we need to take away one from the break count. So we need block break count minus equals 1. That'll take 1 away every single time the ball hits one of the blocks. And then I'm going to go ahead and paste in this audio line again. But again, instead of the game over, I'm going to do the mouse click. Okay, I just chose that audio file for the sound. I thought it was kind of cool. All right, so if you test that out. Okay, mine's working well. Notice I'm still able to move the player around. We'll fix that a little bit later. Okay, to start on the main splash screen, we basically have to insert a new form. But before we do that, we're going to have a bunch of forms up here at the top, so we want to name these appropriately. Form 1's not really a good name. So up at the top where it says Form 1, make sure you click on your form first. Change your name property to, I'm just going to call it Game. Okay, if I click off of it, that's going to change it here. And notice that it did not change it here in the Solution Explorer up here. That's because we need to change it here too. So I'm just going to click once, nice and slow, and it'll bring in this box that I can change this as well. I'm going to change it to the same thing, Game. Hit enter, and it should go ahead and refresh. It changes the file name here. I guess you could have actually changed it here too. And then should change these tabs up here. All right, at the very top of your script, it should say public class game, all right, because we've changed the name from Form 1 to Game. All right, so I'm going to give it a quick save, and now we'll go ahead and insert and start on our main menu. So we're going to go into Project, Add Windows Form. It should already be on Windows Form. If it's not, find that in the list and select it. And again, down here, we want to change the name. Form 1 is not really a good name. I'm going to call it Main Menu. Add, and it'll go ahead and add in a blank form. So now we got two forms. We got the main game, we got the main menu. All right, I'm just going to drag this over here real quick. I like to keep these tabs organized. For me, I like to keep my resources on the left, and then as the game progresses, I keep these windows open. So I always do the design view first, and then when I right click and go to view code, I'm going to put that right behind it. So I got the design view, code, design view for the game, code. Just helps me stay organized. All right, this main menu is not going to be super big, so it doesn't need to be as big as the actual game. About right there is good for now. You can always change the size later. All right, so just some cleanup here with the beginning properties. We want start position to be right in the center of the screen. We want to disable the maximize box, and we want our form border style to be fixed. Okay, it doesn't matter which fix to use. I'm going to use fixed single. The name is main menu. That looks good. I'm going to come down here. The text that's displayed at the top of the form, for readability, there should be a space there. So in the text property, I'm going to put a space. There should not be any spaces in your names, however, so that's okay. All right, so notice it puts that space in here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put in a background picture. All right, so you guys can do the same if you want. I'm going to go into my web browser. I'm a big fan of Lightning, so you can go ahead and search for whatever you want. Just go to Google Images. Just be wary if you're going to post this game later, you want to stay away from copyrighted images, so you can use your search tools if you want. If you click on that, go to usage rights and find labeled for reuse with modification. That means you're free to use it. Kind of limits quite a bit, but that's good practice anyways. Ooh, that one's kind of cool. All right, I actually already have a lightning image, so I'll spare you from that. Remember to save an image, you right-click, save picture. Make sure you put it in your project folder. All right, so just like we did the audio files, we're going to have to import our pictures. So I'm going to change my little menu up here back to images so I can see it when it's imported. Add resource, add existing file, find your project folder. Here's that lightning picture that I already downloaded. Make sure yours is in your project folder and you can put it in. So I'm going to click open. Bam, puts it in. Okay, I'm going to use that for the background. So I can come up here. I'm going to say background image right here. Notice I've selected the form. Come over here. Whoops. Click on a little button. I'm going to choose the lightning bolt. Under background image layout, I'm going to change that to stretch. And then I'll do the same thing it would for a picture box. It's just going to stretch it all the way across. Okay, we want to display the name of the game pretty big here. And we want the background to be transparent. You can use a label. So if I double click label and kind of put it in here, that'll work. However, notice that the background color is white. If you want to learn a little bit of Photoshop, go ahead and get that open. On your guys' computer, if you go to the Start menu in the bottom left, go to All Programs, look for Adobe Design Premium CS5, click on that. You would see Adobe Photoshop here. It doesn't matter if it's the 64-bit or not. So I'm going to go to File, New. I'm going to keep my width at about 1000 by 300. Should give me plenty of room. Opens up a new canvas. And now use the text tool on the left-hand side. Just click inside and type in the name of the game, Breakout. All right, you can change some of the properties up here. You can change how it's aligned, even though it really doesn't matter. It's just going to be the title. I'm going to move it to the middle of the screen first. I'm going to use my select tool, bring it over. Go back to my text tool. I'm going to select all the text. And now I can click over here and change the font. Find a font that you like. Block font would be best. That's not too bad. It's a little too big though, so I'm going to change the size. Something like that looks good. All right, if you want to change the arc of the text, once you select your text, you can click on this button right here and you can give it some type of styling. You can make a flag, a fish, you can rise it, you can arc it. I'll arc it a little bit just so you can see what that looks like. There you go. You can do a vertical arc, you can do horizontal, you can distort it. However you want to do it there. Feel free to change this how you want. Once you have your text kind of set out that way, we can style it even a little bit more. Color really doesn't matter at this point because if you double click on the layer over here, we're going to change these properties. So you can do a color overlay, you can make it a gradient overlay, whatever you want. Okay, for right now, I'll just make it red. If you want to be level and emboss it, this can make it a little bit more 3D-like. Okay, so you can mess around with these settings. You can change the contour down here. Okay, you can add a drop shadow, whatever you want to do. Mess with these properties a little bit. Okay, so for example, maybe I want that fog to come out everywhere. Something like that. Change the opacity a little bit. Something like that. Whenever you're done though, you want to clip off the sides. Okay, so you don't have all this extra space. So make sure you go to Image, Trim, leave transparent pixels on. It's going to trim all those transparent pixels away from each side. Gives you a nice even box around your object. All right. When you're done, make sure you can save it as a Photoshop image, so you can leave this and save it, so you can come back and edit it if you want to later. However, to actually import it into our project, we want to save it as a PNG. So select this format drop-down box, make sure you select PNG, call it whatever you want. I've already created it and called it Breakout Title. Okay, so I'm going to use that one, but you can call it whatever you want. All right, again, make sure you save that if you still want it. Like I said, I've already created one, so I don't need it. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a picture box in here. And now this picture box is going to hold our, so we're going to go back into our resources and we're going to add that other title that we just created. So pull that up, open, there it is. We're going to come in here. Went a little wacky on me. So I'm going to choose image, title, And I'm going to change it to zoom. What zoom does is keeps the aspect ratio, no matter how you size it, it's going to stay within the box. Okay, so notice that we still have this white background. We're going to be able to fix that if you change the background color under web, go to transparent. Notice that we have the transparent background. Kind of looks funny when you move it around. However, when you set it in place, it's going to stay there. Okay, it's just how Visual Basic is set up to render the page, or the form, I should say. To continue, we want to put in some buttons, and then we'll add functionality to those buttons to go into the game. So if you want to add those buttons in here, you can. I'm going to click on my first button. I'm going to change its name. So when I name an object, I use btn for button, and then the name of what the button's going to do. So this one's going to actually play the game. So I'll call it btn play for button play. For the text that shows up on the button down here, change this property just to play. And that's the text that shows up on the button. Okay, I'll put that relatively close to the middle, put the second button underneath it. This one's going to be for any type of instructions or information for the game, so I'm going to call it btn instructions. And the text will just be instructions. And then for the last button, we'll call it btn, and this one will quit the game entirely. So I'm going to set the text to quit to desktop. All right, so all the text isn't going to fit on the button. You can drag it down if you want to. However, I'm going to keep it the same height, and I'm just going to change the width. Although that looks kind of goofy because now they're all different widths. So I'm just going to use my align snap twos that kind of come up on the screen when I resize these. And I'm going to make them all the same size. That way it looks a little bit more formatted. Okay, if I go ahead and test this, notice what happens though. It still opens up the game first. So the last thing in this tutorial that I want to show you is how to change which form pops out first. So under where we got into our resources, so double click on my project or just go to this tab over here, your project tab, find where it says application, and right down here where it says startup form, this is the very first form that shows up when you start to debug or when you start the application. All we got to do is change that to main menu. So now if we play test, the very first menu that pops up, I'm sorry, the first form that pops up should be this one. All right, that looks good. None of our buttons are functioning yet because we haven't set up the code to do that. We'll do that in the next tutorial.